This is Larry Culpepper, inventor of the college football playoff. Goes without saying that I know about a good idea or two when it comes to college football. And the best idea out there is to subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app.
So they asked Colin Kaepernick yesterday about the theory that the national anthem protests that he started are behind the NFL's decline in ratings. Yeah, keep believing that. Be real. How many of y'all stayed up to watch last night, a game with more punts than points, producing the first NFL tie without a touchdown since OT was instituted in 1974?
Well, my man Sam Jackson, he certainly stayed up. Because
Patrick Peterson couldn't stay up.
No, he couldn't. He couldn't stand up there. But he stayed up and had a lot to say about.
Everybody says something to say. Okay.
Is there anything you tell Chandler after how that finished, or is it?
Make it. As a professional, this ain't high school, baby. You get paid to make it.
Yeah, you mentioned Sam Jackson. You had one job. Kick the ball.
Both kickers.
Both kickers.
Yell at it.
Now, that's one way to police end zone celebrations. Nobody gets in. Was this bad football or good old-fashioned defensive slugfest football? Was it so bad till it was good?
It felt that way. I mean, I only got to see part of the game because I had a flight to catch from D.C. to get back here. And by the time I got back, the game was already over. And people were going in on this game, from Sam Jackson to everybody else. But it was the perfect illustration of why the NFL is so arrogant about the product that they have. We've all seen the stories about ratings being down overall in the NFL, 11%. The election, I'm sure there are some people who might be turned off by Colin Kaepernick's protest. I kind of tend to not believe that's where some of that decline is coming from. The product on the field certainly has a lot to do with it. But here's the thing. A bunch of y'all sat up and watched a bad football game. And as long as you do that, as long as you don't make your choice with the remote, then, okay, this is what you get. This is what happens. I know everybody's trying to characterize this like this is somehow the worst year that we've ever seen in terms of quality of play. There have been plenty of bad NFL games I've witnessed before. That happened to be among the worst of them that you've seen. But I think it was probably more of a defensive slugfest than it was actually, some just awful football. I think the way it ended.
That's what I was going to say.
That's what is kind of.
If a tie is like kissing your sister, this was kissing the sister you can't stand with stank breath. Like, this was like, the way this ended just left a horrible taste in your mouth when you got two kickers missing chip shot field goals in overtime. I think what happened was yesterday was a bad day for the NFL. And it put a lot of people in a bad mood going into primetime, which has disappointed all year long. The primetime games have, whether it's Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, whatever. They've all been bad when it was the highlight game of the week and the marquee game of the day, as the case may be. People were in a bad mood going into a matchup of two teams that are, household name type teams. This is a rivalry NFC West game. Russell Wilson's in bad shape. Long term for the Seattle Seahawks, that is an issue when you talk about the fact that he can't get around and make the plays with his legs that we're accustomed to seeing. That was really good defense played last night. Awful special teams, particularly on the part of the Cardinals. But honestly, Black Thought had a line in the tipping point. We're losing grip of what garbage means. Like, we don't even know the difference now between bad football and really, really good defensive football being played at the expense of the offense. I mean, look, I think people nowadays, and maybe it's fantasy football.
I was going to actually point to that.
People could deal with low scoring, but not no scoring.
Correct. And I think that everybody has been trained to believe that good offense means good football. And sometimes I can tell you, I've seen just as many high scoring games in the NFL that have been really frustrating for me to watch as a fan.
Where's the defense?
Where's the defense?
Stop somebody.
Right. And where you feel like it's a defensive pass interference called every 20 seconds,
right,
or that it's just being bogged down by officiating and the offense is just having their way too much, that there's no resistance. And so on some level, as a purist football fan, I was kind of happy to see this. I didn't want the tie because it just seems so silly in this world of all this technology and all these rules and all these changes that the NFL is making to its product. They can't figure out a way for a game not to end in a tie.
That's not the NFL's fault.
Yeah.
You got 75 minutes. Somebody should have scored at least 9 points in this game.
Right.
Okay, so that's not the NFL's fault. What, you didn't go in sudden death again? They had their opportunities. They didn't seize them. But as far as the offense versus defensive dynamic goes in the NFL, I think for a lot of people, they get frustrated by all these rules are catered to help the offense. You can't touch the receiver.
Correct.
You can't touch the quarterback. But this is what the league is trying to prevent. 6-6.
And then when you get
don't complain about it.
And then you get a defensive struggle and everybody's all up in arms that there wasn't more to see there. where, look, some of this, people have to understand when these schedules are made and when the broadcast partners are making decisions about what games to put where and all this, a lot of it is a guessing game, right?
On paper, you think this would have been a more entertaining game.
Yes, but you ask anybody before the season began, a Sunday night game between the Seahawks and Cardinals sounds awfully good to everybody. And I think the problem is that Saturdays have become more entertaining than Sundays. And I know there's always that discussion, that battle between college football fans and the NFL. This year, college football,
colleges jumped over
all
the
the
NFL
big games have delivered, all of them.
And the college football playoff has made, even though college football's regular season was already fantastic, it's up the ante just that much.
Yeah, exactly.
Much more.
And so you're seeing upsets. And then the way they got it started, the first weekend of the season, and it's sort of like this is one of those rare years where the NFL the juice just hasn't been there.
It's been the injuries, it's been Brady's suspension, it's been no Peyton Manning, a half of Russell Wilson, as I talked about. But bottom line, I think most football fans, especially the casual football fans, they acknowledge that defense wins championships, but they ain't trying to see that in the regular season.
Right.
You know, they're trying to see people get in the end zone and those touchdown celebrations, which the league will flag.
Right.
But that's another
And they're trying to win a
conversation.
fantasy league, so you know how that is.
Yeah.
All right, go big or go home, right? Sometimes you get a bit of both. Falcons, they miss a 58-yarder in regulation. And they do something a little crazy. They go for it on 4th and 1 from their own 45 in overtime, fail to get it. And the next possession, Chargers kick a 42-yard field goal to complete a 17-point comeback. So, Dan Quinn, why'd you go for it on 4th and 1?
Honestly, Led, we had real belief we were going to make it and just keep the drive going and keep extending with it. So, just a gut feeling that I went with, and didn't work. We can second guess it. That's easy to do, but it was more a mindset. I have such belief in the guys to go get aggressive and get that, half a yard that we needed. So when we didn't, that was a costly mistake for us.
As you might imagine, Dan Quinn has taken a lot of heat. I've watched a lot of ESPN this morning, and I don't recall a single analyst saying that he should have gone for it in that situation. But I'm going to stall him out. I actually understand why he did it.
Okay.
I get it. Like, there's a lot of decisions maybe I wouldn't have done myself.
Right.
But if I can follow the logic, I can kind of get on board. And he's looking at it from this perspective.
Okay.
Obviously, Phillip Rivers was tearing them up. All right. They couldn't stop him. And, you know how Phillip Rivers and the Chargers are. Once they get on a roll, it's really hard to stop that train. And he decided to go with what was the strength of his team in this game, which was his offense, to put the ball in the hands of his best player, which was Matt Ryan. Well, in this case,
I'm about to say Matt Ryan put it in the hands of Devontae Freeman.
Now, could he have come up with a better play? Absolutely.
But if that play wouldn't have worked, then people would be like, why you didn't just run it?
Right.
Go get a yard.
Either way, you would think in your own building, you should be able to get that yard in that situation. Am I right?
Yeah, that's why he went for it.
Right.
Well, but here's the thing, though. So you trust your team, but you only trust one aspect of your team. Because the same could be said, I trust my special teams to pin them down and trust my defense to get a stop. That's another form of trust, right? He trusted Matt Bryant at the end of regulation, where I think it was like a 58-yard field goal. I mean, he's made a lot of long field goals, but he trusted him to make the kick, didn't come through. He went with the strength of his team, which is his offense, against the Chargers' defense, to your point. However, the Chargers, I believe, came in 5th against the run.
Right.
And on the previous play, Matt Ryan got stuffed on the sneak. And you had Chargers defenders after the game saying, of course, we knew a run was coming. So there was something predictable about their alignment, the formation, the personnel, whatever it was. Again, hindsight's 20/20. And even the complicated win probability models.
It didn't alter it that much.
They say it wasn't that big of a difference. However, here's my issue with it. You're coaching as if you're in sudden death in that moment. Because if you go for it on 4th and 1 from your own 45, is Dan Quinn telling us that when you're at their 25, let's say you convert and that drive continues. If you're at the Chargers 25, are you going for it there too? Or are you bringing out Matt Bryant?
Right.
Point being.
So at some point, you.
That's a 4-down territory play call.
Right.
That's a play call that's saying we got to score a touchdown.
Right.
Which would have ended the game. So you're telling me that all the way down the field, you're going for every 4th down as opposed to taking the field goal. That's a rhetorical point I'm making.
Right.
I doubt that he makes this same decision if you're deep in Chargers territory with the field goal available to you. So what I'm saying is at that point, punting and playing defense, you still have an opportunity to stop them. Now, granted, a field goal wins the game for them, but you still have an opportunity to stop them. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, that's why I can live with it, because if he does do that, let's say he punts it and Phillip Rivers and the Chargers do what they have been doing in terms of completing this comeback, and they eat them up again, then everybody's saying, well,
why didn't you go for it?
Why didn't you go for it?
You got Matt Ryan.
You got Matt Ryan.
Game.
You got Julio
Coleman
Jones.
Was hurt at that point.
Yeah, but still, you have a very high-powered offense. Why didn't you do it?
That's why they get paid the big bucks to make these decisions.
And then I'm sure that some people, or at least, I don't think coaches think about this in the moment, but remember last year when he took a lot of heat, I think he was playing the 49ers. The game 17-13, they 4th and 1. They're inside the 10, and he decides to kick the field goal as opposed to going for it.
Yeah, so, not enough coaches go for it on 4th and 1.
No,
there's way too many times that people play the conservative card, punt, and then it comes back to bite them. Interesting though, how every time we talk about the Falcons on this here show, Jamel, it's always from a negative context. See, if they would have won the game, you wouldn't have nothing to say about the Falcons.
That is not true.
But honestly, I want to talk about my Chargers.
Oh, yeah.
They're my Chargers today.
They finally on the other end.
You heard me say that? They're my Chargers today.
Now they're yours.
Seriously.
But they weren't when they were blowing
everybody
on
and their mama hurt for this team, and they finally got. It was nice to see Mike McCoy and Phillip Rivers finally win a close game, come back to win it. Because when Bryant lined up for that field goal at the end of regulation, I'm like, you know,
they're probably going to make this.
They're going to make this. Just another way for Chargers fans to be miserable. But 2 in a row for San Diego.
Ooh,
it's a big deal.
Break up the Chargers.
You got jokes. If not for bad luck, Geno Smith wouldn't have any. His long-awaited chance to revive his career as a starter got off to a decent start before he was knocked out with a knee injury, Joe Namath. Todd Bowles had to turn back to Ryan Fitzpatrick, who threw for 120 in a win over the Ravens, and then kept it 100 as he threw his bosses under the bus.
The biggest thing in this game, in order to last, is to have belief in yourself, because when the owner stops believing in you and the GM stops believing in you and coaches stop believing in you, sometimes all you have is yourself. So, that's kind of something I've had to deal with before, something I'm dealing with now, and, I just do my best to prepare and be the best quarterback I can be.
You think that you should start next week?
If I don't know what decision they're going to make or what Geno's health is going to be like, but, I think I should start every week.
That's right, Fitz.
Wait, hold up.
That's right.
I know you're not co-signing that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I am. I don't care if he threw 6 picks last week.
Mike.
Talk your stuff.
No, talk nothing. In fact, you should have been quiet. That's one of the most selfish post-game press conferences I've ever seen from somebody. Here it is. First of all, the reason their record looks the way it does is because of you.
That ain't fair.
Really?
He getting the ball thrown over his head?
So the 6
he getting the ball thrown over his head? How your boy Revis been playing this year?
So the 6 interceptions helped.
No, it ain't helped.
Okay, so him leading the NFL in interceptions, that helped the Jets.
I ain't saying
it's the reason you got sat down, Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's because you kept throwing to the other team.
Okay.
So let me get this straight. It takes you being ticked off, throwing those picks, being benched, somebody getting hurt, for you to come in there and play like you give a damn. You better sit all the way down.
Nobody said he ain't never cared.
All the seats and MetLife.
So you ain't never had a bad show? You ain't never had a bad show?
Of course, but
okay.
you know what
ain't nobody tried to bench you.
But you know what I did do?
You may take days off, but nobody made you take a day.
But you know what I didn't do if I had a bad show? I didn't come in here and say, yeah, that's right. Even though I underperformed, it's all your fault for not believing in me.
You could totally relate to somebody not believing in you and not seeing you through your struggles.
When I didn't do my job, when I gave them reason to lose belief,
Jamel, look, I'm not making excuses for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It sounds like you are.
No, but wait a minute. Be reasonable on this. Now, we both know. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick is who he is, but we both know that not all interceptions are the quarterback's fault. The struggles of this team's offense and its defense was certainly not all the quarterback's fault, but they were looking for a spark. And they went to Geno Smith, who we both pointed out, if they had so much confidence in Geno Smith in the first place, they wouldn't have caved and paid Ryan Fitzpatrick $12 million.
It's a lot of quarterbacks in this league that could not keep their starting job after throwing 6 picks.
Understood, especially given the alternative, okay? But when you bring Ryan Fitzpatrick off the bench and you win a game, clearly everybody pulled the rug out. Everybody's like, you know what? We've seen enough of Fitz. We got to go to another direction. And he comes in and wins. All he's saying is, I never stopped believing in me. Even though the rest of the organization from the top up may not have believed in me, I never did.
Because you gave
that's how you should approach it.
No, that's not how he should approach it. You know how you should have approached it. He should have sat there, realized the reason that he lost his job, and when he got back in the game, he should have been grateful that he Yes, he should have been grateful. He had an opportunity to play the hero, but instead he winds up making this conversation all about him.
He didn't make it about him.
Yes,
he probably asked. What was the question?
I don't think anybody asked him to throw his bosses under the bus.
The story is him.
He could have put a period on the end of the sentence and said, you know what? Yeah, I was ticked off. I came in. I did my job. End of story. He didn't have to throw everybody else under the bus because they had to take hit after hit for playing your sorry behind week after week.
You know what? You mighty. doggone hypocritical. Because you know good and well that this was you in this situation.
I would never do that.
You would totally be.
No,
you
I would. You know why?
Because
I do appreciate pettiness. I appreciate pettiness when you do your job well.
Why are you so loud? We don't yell on this show. Why you yelling at me?
I wasn't yelling at you. Did you yell at me?
I didn't yell.
Yes, you did.
Why you got to take the volume up?
Because you sit up here caping for this fool. Like
I'm caping for the fact that I ain't gonna bring it up. But what are they now, 2-5?
Yes. Because they were your pick. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, if he had done his job, he wouldn't have been in that position. Like, it's okay to be petty when you're right. He wasn't right.
There's also something to be said. And yes, first Ty Bowles said, Ryan Fitzpatrick's still our quarterback, right? Then he changed his mind.
Yes.
We all understood why he changed his mind.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like Fitzpatrick was lighting it up, at least for his own team. But there's something to be said for feeling like the team didn't stick with you through thick and thin.
Because of your own doing.
You yelling at me, you ain't listening to me.
I'm listening to you.
You hear me, but you ain't listening.
Because you just wrong.
Can you hear Jimmy?
That's why. All right, let's move on.
We'll start first.
The first 10 minutes of this game was a train wreck. All
right?
Our
show?
5 turnovers combined in under 10 minutes. But the Eagles eventually settled down, all while pummeling former Eagle Sam Bradford, who was sacked 6 times. Basically, the Eagles did to the Vikings what the Vikings do to everybody else. And Mike Zimmer wasn't happy.
It was a disappointing day today. I thought we played embarrassing, really, is the word, in at least 2 of the phases. And I'm very disappointed in the performance that we gave today. We turned the ball over offensively. We didn't block people. We dropped balls. We got the quarterback hit. We got 3rd and 2 inches, and we can't convert on third down or 4th down. We got 3 shots in the red zone in the first half. We throw an interception. We give up a 98-yard kickoff return. We fumble a punt. So if you're gonna do those things, you have no chance to win.
Did they get on the bus right? Because he just broke them down. What?
You okay?
Are you okay?
I'm good.
I'm good too.
You almost let one fly a few times, huh?
See, I controlled it. I held it in. But the Eagles exposed the Vikings as a fragile 5-1 team.
They got a hell of a weakness. Maybe the worst. 3 areas you really can't afford to be weak in. You can play around the quarterback. I'm not saying that's what the Vikings have had to do. Bradford's been good. You can play around the quarterback. If your secondary is terrible, you better have a hell of a front 7. Ask Carolina about that. But if your offensive line starts springing leaks, it's like this is problematic. And where do they go for solutions? Because even if they want to trade for somebody, they got no room on the salary cap. I would love to see the Browns free Jill Thomas again this year, which they were supposed to do last year, didn't. They can't afford him, right? We talked about Teddy Bridgewater's injury, which precipitated the acquisition of Sam Bradford. We talked about Adrian Peterson's injury. We talked about every injury except for Matt Khalil's. The left tackle's hurt. The right tackle's hurt. It's like Bradford, you can say what you want about Sam Bradford. No quarterback could survive that onslaught that he got yesterday. It's hard to complete passes when it's getting stripped before you could even, follow through on it. So ultimately, teams, this is the Eagles, and they know Bradford well. They know what he likes and doesn't like. But if you got the personnel to make life miserable for that quarterback, given his inherent limitations, no real running game, that's a lot to ask a defense to compensate for an offensive line that can't protect anybody. Like Mike Zimmer is saying, they're soft. They may just be real thin.
Yeah.
They may just be really thin.
I guess if you're the Vikings, you have to look at this. Was this just an example of a good team who's exceptional at home defensively? Mm-hmm. Just having our number, being able to, as you said, have the personnel to expose our weaknesses. Was it just about this team or about something and trends we will see later on down the season?
I think it's both,
well,
more the latter.
Because here's the thing. There's a lot of teams that try to do what the Eagles did to the Vikings, but that doesn't mean they can actually do it.
Right.
So I'm not saying...
Bradford gets it out quicker.
He does.
Quicker, yeah.
And look, we all realize, as well as they were playing, as good of a story as it was, there was always this sort of feeling or sense that, at some point, Cinderella. I mean,
it wasn't smoke and mirrors.
It wasn't smoke and mirrors, but like they were playing. They were making do. They were playing the best hand that they possibly could, and playing it better than any of us ever thought. So Look, the bottom line is if anybody has more pressure, it's probably their defense. What doesn't help are the turnovers. And both of these teams were trading turnovers in the first, as I said, 10 minutes.
That's that bad football I was talking about that put people in bad moods.
Yes, it is. Like you see this kind of sloppiness from two of what is supposed to be two of the better teams in the NFC. And it's kind of like, okay, what are we doing here, guys? What they know now is their room for error is just so slim. They can't turn the ball over.
They're still good, but it's one of those things that it's just like if this line doesn't get it together, they're not going to be able to keep the quarterback they have healthy.
No.
When they spent for a first-round pick on.
And given his injury history, that's super.
But I still believe in him, though. See, you didn't believe in me. You didn't believe y'all didn't believe in us. That's kind of where I'm. Me and Fitz, we here.
This is Rachel Liu, and on the ESPN Esports podcast, we commemorate the death of StarCraft Pro League. We also go over the League of Legends World Championship semifinals at MSG. Be sure to subscribe in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
Did you ever think this day would come?
No. I just wish my brothers were alive to see this, because I had a brother killed in the war, another brother prisoner in Germany for 21 months, and two other brothers overseas. And they loved the Cubs. And my father did too, but they're all dead now. And this old lady's still living.
You're still going. Now, how are you going to celebrate tonight?
Who knows? I probably have a Jägermeister.
Cheers. Did you say hard and fizzy, by the way?
No, you said that.
No, I didn't say
1 or 11, because you deserve it. I don't remember which writer it was, but one of the ESPN.com writers, I think, went to watch this game at a nursing home.
Oh,
Chicago. I don't
that's
remember
really
who.
Smart.
Yeah, and I was just like,
been waiting their whole lives for this.
Been waiting their whole lives for this.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it was obviously boundless joy.
They even forgave Bartman.
Yeah, of course you have to in this situation.
That was a great scene.
It was. A friend of mine who's a Cubs fan didn't come back home until 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. And I was just like, that is partying on a whole new level. But I feel a great sense of relief for them, because I think the disappointment of not making it, like now I think they can, look, they want to win it.
I was about to say, it's
but
like, this is great. Stay in the moment, but what if they don't win?
I know, but
one
I
of
think
these
they can
teams got to
handle that.
lose.
I think they can handle that a little bit better.
I don't know,
it's
man.
the not making it and not even having the chance.
If they lose,
I
it's
think
going
that
to
was
be
worse.
crushing. Speaking of crushing, Alabama linebacker Mac Wilson.
Stay woke.
I think he knocked a tooth out, I want to say. That's on speed.
I think his soul is somewhere in the end zone.
They said that was not targeting because he could protect himself. Targeting but it was a big deal. Targeted in this game. There was another incident that got somebody kicked out.
Meanwhile,
Leonard Fournette. See, I know you've been one of those people.
Go home and be a family man.
I know, You've been one of those people that, like many of us, is like, Leonard Fournette shouldn't be playing for free. Like, what more do you have to prove? For the safety of every defender in the SEC. Let this young man,
a safety issue.
Let him just sit and just get ready to run roughshod over the NFL.
But you have to I will say this, you have to give that defender credit.
For what?
Because
sacrificing his life?
He knows what's coming. I do think the worst humiliation is my man right there on the kickoff return.
But he didn't see him.
Well, here's the thing is that with Leonard Fournette by now, it's your fault if you run up on him. You already know what's going to happen, right?
Golly.
So it's kind of like, all right.
When Jay Ajayi grows up, maybe he'll be Leonard Fournette. I'm kidding. 214 yards against the Bills. Fourth player in NFL history to rush for at least 200 yards in back-to-back games. You know the other guys? O.J. Simpson, Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams.
So what you saying?
I don't know what I'm saying. Look, they got a lot of people throughout NFL history that have been good running backs behind good offensive lines. You mean to tell me only 4 cats now have done it back-to-back games, 200? I mean, I wonder, it took him a while. Maybe they found somebody. Maybe they found a legitimate star running back.
Or maybe they found
how many people have had the opportunity
an actual identity, because after they lost to the Titans, I mean, I think a lot of us looked at the Dolphins like, all right, be another disappointing year for them, and questioning Ryan Tannehill. And now that they found somebody they can build their offense around, maybe it could be something.
Or you want to be old school and say, oh, it's just bad football. They can't tackle like they used to. The practices are down, so nobody's tackling. That's why you run for 200 yards in back-to-back games.
Good for him. All right, Gronk tallied career touchdown number 68 yesterday in a win over the Steelers. And you know what comes right after 68. Sure, Gronk knows.
One more, I got 69 touchdowns, if you know what I mean. Only you know what I mean, baby.
Who was he talking to?
He's such a child.
Yeah.
He is such a child.
So if he gets 69, is he just going to sit on 69 just so he can keep doing this?
I don't even know how to feel about that. Brady trolling him there on Facebook.
He still hasn't thrown a pick. None of them thrown a pick. None of the Patriots have thrown a pick.
No, they have not. But is it how can you put this win into context, given the fact that the Steelers didn't have Ben Roethlisberger?
You know what? I still think it's impressive. Look, I know the Steelers are banged up. Obviously, it wasn't with Ben, but they just handle their business.
Yeah.
You know, and you talk about identities, whether it's Brady throwing it, whether it's Blunt running it, they go in, they take care of their business. That's why they're the best team.
Let me get back to Gronk for a minute, because I don't want to fall into that category of everything he does is cute.
Funny.
That's not funny. Yeah, and if I were that reporter, I would have had a...
Well, I don't think many people laughed.
Yeah.
You used to have jokes about Matthew Stafford. What you call him, a broke Jay Cutler?
I sure did.
24th career game-winning drive in the fourth quarter or overtime in his 100th career start. That means a quarter of his starts, he's leading them back.
Too bad
He's also got the most passing yards. See, he's also got the most passing yards in his first 100 starts in NFL history. Kirk Cousins thought he had him.
Yeah.
Thought he had him where he wanted him after that go-ahead touchdown with a minute 5 left, but Stafford took him down the field. I believe in every game this year he's had to do that. So let me get this straight. Calvin Johnson retires. You got no running game to speak of. And look at the Lions. Broke Jay Cutler, huh? I was always on Stafford. Trust me, I know quarterback. That's why I'm on Fitz. I'm sorry, no, that doesn't go with that. I've always been a Stafford guy.
I can admit that.
Apologize to Mellow 5.
Let's just see how this plays out. But I'll say this, I can admit his evolution. I watched that game, and you know what struck me? They might be a better offense without Calvin.
That's what they predicted this offseason, because he's spreading the ball around more.
Opening night. LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, and the Cavs begin the defense of their NBA title. To the rim. Oh, great block. James out of nowhere. They'll face Carmelo Anthony, Derrick Rose, and the New York Knicks. It all begins on opening night. Coverage of the Cavaliers and Knicks, Tuesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and now on the ESPN app.
So it is actually... there's really 3 people. I got my eyes checked out a couple weeks ago, and they said I needed to go to glasses full-time. So as of Tuesday, I'm now a full-time glasses person. And this style in particular is a tip of the cap, a nod to Woody Hayes, to Michael Douglas in the movie Falling Down. And also a tip of the cap to Malcolm X. In honor of those 3 men.
All right.
Why they ain't clap for Brother Malcolm?
Well, while we're on the subject of Jim Harbaugh's eyesight, I'm sure you watched with pleasure as Penn State pulled off a monumental upset of Ohio State. Penn State blocked a 47-yard field goal to Temple, returned it for a touchdown to seal the upset. It was their second blocked kick of the game. The Buckeyes also had a punt blocked in the fourth and a missed extra point. Special teams, man. Biggest domino to fall so far in the college football season, but there are kind of 2 stories here, Mike. Ohio State still very much alive in the college football playoff. And again, Urban Meyer, look, I am not trying to at all discredit or diminish that victory that we had over Ohio State at the Horseshoe last year. But I've almost put that in this category because it's just as inexplicable. How do you got beat last year by backup quarterbacks? All right? Why are you laughing? What's so funny?
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
Okay.
Finish your point. I just realized why you went so hard for this topic to be in the show. Go ahead.
Why?
No, finish your point.
Is this not an important college football story?
Finish your point.
So then you have Penn State, which they outplayed in a lot of areas except for one. I mean, how do you lose to a team that only has 8 completions against you? Curtis Samuel doesn't get the ball. It was a whole lot. In terms of the
I think Texas Tech attempted 88 passes.
See what I'm saying? And like JT Barrett sacked 6 times. It's just kind of inexcusable for them, even though it was on the road. Obviously a tough environment. And hey, congrats to James Franklin. This was the signature win of his career at Penn State.
So you acknowledge that Ohio State's not out of it, right?
I do acknowledge they're not out of it.
Because they got Nebraska at the crib. Then they go, and they got obviously Michigan at home, so they could still represent the Big Ten East, win the Big Ten, get in the playoffs. I mean, look, Washington could stumble this week. They're at number 19, Utah, I believe. A lot of season left to play. And I believe in every one of Urban Meyer's national championship winning seasons has come with one loss. You mentioned State last year, Virginia Tech, they lost and was still in the mix. I mean, it happens. And they weren't going to win every single road game. I think it's his first road loss. Yeah. As Ohio State's head coach, right? I mean, it's at Penn State, tough place to play. You mentioned signature win. This was Penn State's moment. I was laughing because it just hit me that it's so bad for your Spartans this year until you need to reach back to last year to gain a highlight. How did Michigan State do this week? How did they do this week?
What are we talking about them?
How did they do? I don't know because they're so far off my radar. Seriously, how I'm asking, how did they do this week?
Not well.
No, okay. They lost again? Whose turn was it this week? I'm just curious. Whose turn was it this week?
Are we trying to get me in a bad mood? Or?
No, I'm just asking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I'm asking sincerely. I'm asking for a friend. Maryland? Okay, gotcha. So it's Maryland, fake punting BYU. Who else took off to the squad?
What's your point?
So my point is that the rest of the season, Ohio State, to look at the rest of the schedule, they take a trip to Michigan State where they can avenge that loss that you referenced. I mean, they'll take care of business there, right? So ultimately,
I'm not prepared to talk about that game yet.
You brought it up. You brought up
I didn't bring it up last year. I didn't bring up anything to do with
Why did you inject the Spartans in this conversation at all?
Because it was a similar type of loss in the sense
which they can recover from.
Which they can recover from, of course, but it was a similar type of loss in the sense that when you look at the stat sheet, and granted, yes, obviously special teams was the reason they lost this game.
93 yards passing.
And you cannot believe that they actually got beat under these circumstances. Yeah, I mean, it's just inexplicable in the sense that they have way too much.
It's college football. You just said why college football has jumped over the NFL. This is Exhibit A right here. Is the fact that it's always chaos at some point or another. The only person got beat up more than Sam Bradford this week was J.T. Barrett.
Yes.
Penn State played a hell of a game.
They did.
Ohio State's season is far from over. Doesn't take a genius to know that. I just figured you out though. Because there's no other reason for you to bring up Michigan State at any point this year.
This is not about me, Mike. I'm not Ryan Fitzpatrick. I didn't make this all about me, all right? I just was making a reference, and that was it. It lined up, okay?
Just discussing our workload over a meal.
That's it. All right, let's discuss Klay Thompson next.
The team garbage this year, though.
You know what? Do you want me to finish this? You know what? I'll just wait. We're going to talk about Klay Thompson. Mike getting cussed out.
Because if they were killing it this year, we'd lead the show with Michigan State. You know that. Jay, you remember that ESPN the magazine article we talked about last week about Draymond and how frustrating he can be to the Warriors organization? Our man Ethan Sherwood-Strauss. Well, this quote, the guys might be frustrated by his antics, but they had an opportunity to prove themselves without him in Game 5 of the finals. And they played like a bunch of cowards, for lack of a better phrase. That quote set Klay Thompson off.
Nobody said that to your face?
No, never.
Nobody in this organization?
Never. I respect them more if they just came and said, like, you guys play like cowards. You respect that more instead of going to the media and talking. You hear it from the management. Last thing. Oh, yeah. We're all excited. Yeah, we don't look down. Look. Andre's having these guys run around doing jumping jacks. Good.
So clearly they all fed up with stories like this.
Sources.
Yeah, but there is some irony here to what he's talking about. And we work in the source business, or before we were talking heads, we worked in the source business. But there is a place for anonymous sources. Some of the best journalism, most important journalism throughout American history done by the Fourth Estate has been with the help of anonymous sources. We know that. That said, it does bother me, even as a reporter at heart, it does bother me when anonymous sources call names or talk trash about somebody else. That is the pot calling the kettle black. You're saying they played like cowards. You should probably put your name on that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's fair. And I have no problem with how he reacted. But we all know how it is that, and granted, some of that, I think it depends on who the source is, what their relationship is to the story. Because I think, what's the agenda behind it? Everybody has an agenda when they talk to you anonymously. And so if that is somebody of significance in the Warriors organization, then I think it puts a slightly different spin on it. All I'm saying is if I'm the reporter, I'm going with the quote. If I trust the person who gave it to me and why they did it.
Ethan's job to worry about their feelings.
It really isn't, but I understand why Klay would respond that way.
That said, anonymous source, that's what I was saying And my name on it last week. All the trash they talk about your boy Draymond and all of the headache that he is. I keep saying if they win that series with him or without him in Game 5 in particular, we're not having this conversation about Draymond Green being a headache. Meanwhile, the King, of course, he vanquished the Bay Area challenger to his throne and sits on top of the world as his Cavs reign over the NBA. And as he looks down from the land across the landscape of the NBA, Jamel, LeBron sees the byproduct of his work. And he put forth the following theory.
Oh, can't wait.
I know teams switch and pick up new coaches and new players, and their whole goal is kind of they want to beat me. It's never just about me, mind you. But I always hear them saying, we got to beat LeBron. It's not just me on the court, but I understand that teams get together in this conference and across the league to try to beat me. See? LeBron, Let me explain this to you. As the person with just a touch more arrogance than you.
Just a tad.
LeBron tired of being humble. Okay? And I'm proud of you. And Ringo's proud of you. Okay? I'm here because first he cussed at the parade. Okay? Sat up there with, I don't know if we got this video. I wish I'd have asked for it. When he blocked Steph and gave him that look. This is the continuation to give him Steph that look. Like you better recognize.
He's had all this saved in drafts.
That's absolutely right. Like he is feeling himself right now. He really wants this 5th MVP. He also said in the last couple of days, "Oh, well, my minutes ain't gonna stop me from getting this MVP." Let me squash that right now. Steph played 31 minutes, got MVP last year. Now, granted, Steph averaged 30 points, but he made 400 threes in those 30 minutes. He's like, I can play less minutes and still be the MVP. I proved I'm the best player in the world in these finals. Matter of fact, I proved in the last 2 finals, even though I got 1 championship to show for it. It don't matter if Kyrie Irving's jumper helped me get this title. It doesn't matter if Kevin Love's, wait for it, defense on Steph Curry helped me get this title. Nah, they all coming for me. Forget about the fact that I formed a super team in Miami to go for the Celtics. Forget about the fact that I left the Heat to go and join the Cavs and trade for Kevin Love so I could win now after I lost to the Spurs. Forget all that. They're coming for me. As my phys ed teacher, Mr. Gray, used to say in elementary school, you're smelling yourself and the odor getting mighty strong. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Stop being humble. Just call it like
you can. You don't have to.
He know he's building his legacy right now, right?
I know.
He wants you to know I'm gonna have 5 MVPs.
Yep.
I'm a one-man walking dynasty with 6 straight finals trips, and finally, I'm so dope. Everybody else out here trying to catch me.
You know,
I get where you're coming from. I see you, LeBron. I see what you're doing.
I see what you're doing, but when you have to build such a case, I'm just wondering what are you insecure about? Because you don't have to tell us, LeBron. We already know
the facts in front of us.
And guess what? You're right. He reserves the right to not be humble. Please continue to not have any humility about it. However, you don't reserve the right to not make sense. And we have the right to say, hey, bruh, I hear you, but at the same time, you yourself have a symbol. Look, the entire Cavs roster was built off beating Golden State. All right?
Let's get JR.
Let's get JR.
Give Tristan Thompson his max.
Let's open up the offense. Yeah. Let's shoot more threes. Yeah. Let's do all that.
He effectively fired a coach in order
to beat the Warriors. That's the way it goes. Whoever sets the standard, you do that.
LeBron, Ryan Fitzpatrick, same dude today. Forget
it's a big difference.
Revisionist historians. That's what we're talking about right here.
Man.
No, but LeBron's right, though. Ultimately.
No, he's not right.
Well, he's right in this respect. You're right that he does not necessarily have to go out of his way to point it out. But when you get to the finals every year, whether you're on the Heat or the Cavs, basically everybody else is trying to beat you. I mean, that's factually accurate.
Okay.
But it's inaccurate to leave out the part where you did the same thing.
To try to beat San Antonio.
Well, as he said, I was just trying to get Boston. They all trying to get me. I love it.
Go ahead.
I love it. It's basketball season tomorrow.
All right, we got 3 fired doing too muches for you on today's countdown. Let's start with head coach Ty Graham from Arizona State. Him and Mike Leach got beef.
Standing in the newspaper's chicken. I've always respected you. You do that chicken.
Hey, that's real.
Yeah, it is real.
I ain't choosing side. I just appreciate him actually saying it to him.
Oh, yeah, saying it to his face.
Yeah.
Mike Leach, though, fined $10 grand by the Pac-12 for his comments that he made about Arizona State's stealing signs, all right? You know, you have those plays, and they're apparently stealing them. And Ty Graham was like, hey, we weren't doing anything illegal.
Right.
So, yes, a lot of people do try to interpret those signs, and they try to look for clues on the sideline. This is very common in football at the professional and college level.
Good moment, great moment in handshake history. Still would rank "What's Your Deal, Bro" as number 1.
That's true.
Followed by all things Mangini Belichick. Okay.
That became an event unto itself, right?
But this is top 5 post game handshake. Like, hey man, just so you know,
I seen you. right?
Yeah.
One thing
That's real.
Anybody knows about Mike Leach is like he is not one to hold his tongue. He does not hold back.
But for Coach Graham, it's like that. When you say that, you're ready to scrap. Because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't forget Jim Schwartz and Jeff Fisher.
That's true.
Speaking of Jeff Fisher,
Look
it
at that.
was Jeff Fisher, right? Jim Schwartz, yeah. Despite Case Keenum being a turnover machine with 4 picks in Sunday's loss against the Giants, Jeff Fisher refuses to start.
I think.
Oh, okay. With the back slap, right. Refuses to start the number 1 draft pick, Jared Goff. Now you may be saying, hey, what you got to lose? Play the rookie. Why'd you trade up to get him? Me, coming from the Ryan Fitzpatrick school of thought today, I don't care if he throws 6 picks. You stick with the guy that you believe in. So that way,
really, Mike?
when Case Keenum comes back in relief for Jared Goff, when he stinks, he doesn't have to get up there and say ownership, management, head
Y'all
coach
didn't believe in me.
You see how that comes full circle?
No, that,
see how that
makes
works?
no sense whatsoever. You are awarded no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. So here's the thing. They need to either Case Keenum has pictures or Jared Goff stinks. I don't know
Same
what
pictures that Jeff Fisher has?
Correct. So I don't know what it is, but you will run the risk of losing your
That
team.
Collins pick 6 was awesome, though.
It was amazing. And what do you know? They're right on track for 8-8. Huh? Major bathroom problems, according to multiple reports on Twitter. The PA announcer at the Alabama-Texas A&M game instructed fans to refrain from using the bathroom due to water pressure issues. Roll Tide means something else, huh? At Bryant-Denny Stadium. Not a good look. 100,000 fans there.
Man.
One place. Broken toilets. That is a recipe for pure disaster.
Glad we ain't never had that issue.
Meanwhile, this Canadians fan, this is just nasty, all right? He has his nachos and drink stashed underneath the urinal. Like my man, you want, flecks of urine all in your... What was he thinking?
God only knows what's down there, what could be dripping.
Oh!
Just bacteria. Was he...
Did he...
There must be some fire nachos. Like, you worry about somebody taking some?
Right.
They got jalapenos,
there's
chili,
no
cheese,
situation in which that worked out. You can't put that on top of the urine. You just got to leave it at your seat and pray nothing happens to it. Or better yet, just throw it away.
That's just...
Look, I know
wow.
it's expensive.
That's how they do it above the border?
Nah, that's just... Meanwhile, I'm sure a lot of Alabama fans use that big cup policy that you talk about when you peeing in the car.
All the time.
Yeah.
But I would never have my nachos next to it. All kind of splashing and everything going on.
Oh, now you fancy.
LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, and the Cavs begin their title defense against Carmelo, D. Rose, and the Knicks.
Coverage begins Tuesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN.